your first alert to plan your day and stay safe. From KCRG TV9, this is First Alert Weather Now.
Welcome and good evening, and welcome to the Thursday evening edition of First Alert Weather Now. I'm meteorologist Corey Thompson. It was a nice, almost kind of spring-like day. Now, of course, temperatures would be a little bit warmer in the spring for real, but it certainly felt warm compared to the pretty chilly conditions we've had so far this week. We've got a little bit more of that to come, but then also those cold temperatures we've been giving you the first alert to over the last several days. More details on the latest evolution of that, as well as a look at your forecast for fun as we settle into the weekend, and kind of a look back at an event that happened a couple of years ago here in eastern Iowa, as well as a look forward to what may come in February. But what you need to know as you head out tonight is that we will have those mild conditions sticking with us. A southerly breeze will be there as we go into the nighttime hours and the day on Friday. That provides us with the warmest day of the calendar year so far, beating today's highs by a significant margin. But then a cold front moves through. That brings in northwesterly winds that's going to send our temperatures downward and bring in that Arctic chill as we head into the weekend and early next week. Yeah, that will actually be the coldest air of the whole winter season so far, with wind chills that will be headed toward that edge of the dangerous category. Now, that's all because of this storm system that's off to our northwest. Another warm front will be moving through tonight. And that will bring in that even warmer air mass for your Friday, but then that cold front off in the Dakotas will be quick to follow. And that's what's going to set up that drop, at least start that process as we head into the weekend. Our Marion City Cam picture, there are some clouds up above us at this point, but generally a little bit of a mix of clear sky and clouds. Temperatures, though, is still in the upper 20s to low 30s for most of us. Dubuque, the exception there at 23. Wind chills are down a few degrees, but winds have turned fairly light, at least at this point. Your planner for the rest of the evening takes us in the mid-20s. Winds will stay, though, out of the south between 10 to 20, perhaps a little bit stronger, even as we head toward daybreak. So expect those wind chills to be down in the teens again for the start of your Friday. Now this weekend, with colder temperatures around, some of those indoor activities will probably sound a bit more appealing. First Alert Chief Meteorologist Joe Winters is here with your forecast for fun.
Our weather forecast, we head into the next 9 days or so, looks dry. That provides some good weather for your forecast for fun. And let's take a look at what fun you can have. Now, of course, going on right now is the Iowa basketball game. The women's basketball tipped off at 6. 34 degrees on your way home, not bad. If you have friends or family or relatives there, they should have a fine drive home from the basketball game. Let's look at our ski report. And we do have lots of skiing that you can do in and around the state of Iowa and states in between. Chestnut Mountain, a 32-inch base with 18 runs open. Sundown Mountain now has a 15-inch base, 21 runs open. Mount Cato, 14 runs open with a 22-inch base. Head up to southwest areas of Wisconsin. Cascade Mountain, all 47 runs are open with a 36-inch base. The biggest thing, not a lot of new snow in any one area, but they can make snow, and if temperatures stay cold enough at night, they can keep that snow on the mountains to allow for some of that skiing to take place. Cedar Rapids Rough Riders are in town both Friday and Saturday. At Friday, the puck drops at 7:05. It's college cornhole night. We are going to look for temperatures in the mid-40s on Friday. Could still be near 40 as Green Bay comes to town as that game begins again at 7:05. As we look at our holiday countdown, if you're thinking ahead to some fun you can have for Valentine's Day, only 29 days away, 60 days to St. Patrick's Day, 94 days till Easter, and for Mother's Day, 115 days. Start to make some plans right now, and of course, as we head toward those holidays, we'll give you our forecast for fun.
The Climate Prediction Center is an agency of the National Weather Service that focuses on some longer range forecasting products that they put out there. One of them is their temperature and precipitation outlooks. Now we show some of those here in those shorter ranges of like 6 to 10 or 8 to 14 days in the future, but they also do monthly and seasonal outlooks. And we're going to take a look at the new February outlook, which does involve the possibility, or at least the favorability, for below normal temperatures to continue into the upper Midwest. This includes Iowa, a bit stronger of a signal toward the North Dakota region as well. This is a continuation of what we've seen so far this January. Would not be a huge shock based on the way things have been going and based on a typical sort of pattern that you would expect this time of year. Now also favoring above normal precipitation across the eastern part of the state in particular. That would be a change from January, which has been quite dry. And we combine those below normal precipitation chances or below normal temperature chances and above normal precipitation chances, that combines to perhaps be a bit of a snowy outlook as we go through the month of February. Now, this is their first monthly outlook for February. They will take another crack at it as we get toward the end of January. This could change, But that's the early look. And just a reminder of what February could bring. Temperatures that start the month at 29 degrees, but by the end of it, they get to 38. Normal lows will get back into the 20s by the end of the month. It's a little bit wetter than January with 1.22 inches of liquid equivalent of precipitation. That amounts to about 8.3 inches of snow on average. Obviously, we have fallen short of that so far this month.
Now, your first alert forecast with meteorologist Corey Thompson.
We're not adding precipitation to our monthly totals over the next 24 hours. Your first alert highlights those boxes here in green. Now that's despite the fact that we're going to have a cold front moving through. That front will bring in those gustier winds as we head toward especially the later portion of tomorrow, but also ahead of it, southerly winds will be gusting between 20 to 30 miles per hour, helping to warm our temperatures. That helped us today, and we're going to see that process continue into tomorrow. Right now, winds are fairly light on our Cassville City cam, and we have seen those get pretty light now that the sun is down. But as we go through the night, those should start to creep back upward again and coming from the south, helping to push in that warmer air. Right now, upper 20s to low 30s for most of us. Cassville at 28, 30 in Iowa City. Wind chills as a result of the light winds that we have down the low to mid 20s. So still chilly out there, but certainly not as cold as it has been in the evenings as we started the week. Now, clouds have been scattered throughout the evening. These are mostly of the mid and higher variety, so they're not necessarily that kind of thick overcast, which keeps our temperatures really steady overnight. And we'll see kind of those types of clouds as we go through the night, even into the day on Friday. So your first alert forecast overnight calls for lows again in the 20s. This is similar to where we started your Thursday with 25 in Decorah, 27 in Oskaloosa. Southerly winds will help to bolster those temperatures from falling much further than they might otherwise with that mix of sun and clouds. Now, Pinpoint Futurecast shows some of those mid-level clouds moving through. It also tries to develop a bank of lower clouds too. That's a possibility as we start off your Friday, but I think we'll see some sun through the day, and that's going to be key to getting our temperatures toward that warmer reading that we're expecting. But notice here by noon, already starting to see winds shift a bit in our far northwestern communities, up toward Charles City, back toward Iowa Falls. We are expecting the possibility of winds turning lighter for a period of time during the mid-afternoon hours for most of us, and then toward the evening, really picking up from the northwest. And when those do, that's when that temperature will start to drop. And we'll see that continue through the night. Even though clouds will be around a little bit, those northwest winds will overcome even that usual added advantage of not getting that radiational cooling from the overnight hours. So we will see our temperatures turn colder. We'll start off chilly on Saturday, only a slight bounce in our temperatures by Saturday afternoon, thanks to the sunshine that we'll see. Now temperatures will be in the 40s tomorrow, area-wide, 42 in Decorah, 48 in Washington. Normal highs still in the upper 20s, so that's about 20 degrees above normal. Not too bad, honestly, compared to the warmth that or the cold temperatures we've seen. Remember, even with the wind factored in tomorrow, temperatures will be in the 30s on our wind chill, upper 30s at that. But tomorrow evening, back in the teens and falling from there. That's all as that Arctic air mass works in. We're going to see it first on Saturday, but then continuing to be reinforced on Sunday and again on Monday. We're going to see additional pushes of that cold air. And that's going to result in some very chilly temperatures, but it doesn't hang around forever. We're going to see some improvement by the middle of next week. But in the meantime, expect those wind chills to turn quite cold. We're looking at temperatures that are down in the range of 15 to 25 degrees below zero on the mornings of Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Yeah, that's going to make a difference in terms of how it feels. Now this day, 2 years ago, it did not feel anything like those cold temperatures we're forecasting for the weekend. In fact, it was unseasonably warm and moist. And with a low pressure system around, that resulted in this. This is a tornado crossing Interstate 80 near Williamsburg, which is extremely uncommon for the month of January. This was caught by a car that had obviously pulled over. Tornado warnings were issued along the path of this storm as it moved to the northeast, and that storm did cause a little damage. So it's a little bonus weather rewind for you this week. Grower's Guide not in place this week. Justin Roberts has the week off. So let's look at some of the statistics from this storm system as it moved through. It gave us a couple of tornadoes, and we also had a couple of reports of hail as it moved through. So we did have that both occurring with that one pretty much lone thunderstorm that didn't even produce a lot of lightning as it tracked off to the northeast. January 16th, 2023 is when this took place. And yeah, it was that unseasonably warm condition that really set the stage with that strong low pressure. And the hail was up to quarter sized in a few cases. It was pretty prolifically producing that hail likely because the atmosphere was pretty cold up aloft, despite the warm temperatures that we saw down near the ground. That's from our coverage that day on January 16th, 2023, with that storm, again, just crossing Interstate 80 and tracking to the northeast, moved into portions of Lynn County and then in portions of Jones and Cedar counties as well as it continued off before weakening, kind of outran that warm temperature that it had to fuel it. The tornado that it produced in Iowa County was an EF1. Peak wind speeds about 90 miles per hour, 4.7 mile path length. It was about 400 yards wide at its widest. You saw that video. It did look pretty imposing there as it crossed Interstate 80. In terms of what it did, well, it did knock over a semi on Interstate 80. There was also damage to a cattle shelter, some tree damage along its path, and National Weather Service spotters and assessors were able to track that path as it moved through Iowa County. Another tornado was reported north of Ely. Now, the assessors from the National Weather Service there to check on the damage were not able to locate damage to rate it, so it was known as an EFU. Temperatures that day got into the 50s or even low 60s, and dew points were up in the 50s too, and so that's plenty of moisture in the month of January, and it was really just that one storm. Other ones produced rain, for sure, and we did eventually see colder temperatures wrap in behind it, but nothing else was severe that day here in eastern Iowa. And it was the first report of tornadoes in Iowa in January since January 24th, 1967. It had been 56 years in between those two incidents. Now, in terms of what we are facing over the next 9 days, nothing like that 2 years ago, but we are seeing some pretty big changes. We talked about that change we're going to expect starting Friday night into Saturday. It's that big drop that we're still anticipating. We're at the peak right now, today and tomorrow, both significantly above normal, but we're falling off a cliff as we head into the weekend and the start of next week. But much like a roller coaster, it comes up pretty quick, and we're back above normal potentially by as soon as next week. But remember, it's those very cold temperatures that we're expecting, especially in the morning hours. From about Saturday night all the way through Tuesday morning, expect your wind chills to be below zero. So even though these air temperatures warm up, and that's being aided by the bare ground that we have, if we had a bunch of snow on the ground, this would be even colder with this air mass coming in. Yeah, it's going to be a very chilly time nonetheless. The same time, though, spent without much in the way of precipitation. This is starting Friday at about noon as that cold front moves through. No precipitation with it. And then additionally, no precipitation as we go into next week either. Totally dry 9-day forecast, which again for January, we don't get a ton of precipitation, but it's weird to not see any at all. Certainly running on the dry side. We'll have to see where this month ends up once we wrap it up in terms of how we rank for January's here in eastern Iowa's past. Do focus, if you like warmer weather though, on those 30s that return as soon as the end of next week. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday night edition of First Alert Weather Now. We'll be back again to wrap up the week and give you the latest on the cold air coming tomorrow night, same time, same place. Have a good night.